sometimes you have to make room for the right people in your life. And if there's either a group of people or a person that you no longer resonate with on an energetic level, it might be time to let that person go and let them continue on their journey. And really, it opens up space for the right people to come into your life, the people who will champion you, the people who you will champion. And any good relationship must be a two-way street, a synergism, so to speak, a symbiosis. And we can get beyond the zero-sum game of push-pull, win-lose, and actually work towards something that's maybe greater than all of us. And I think that's what's going to happen here, And I think we see this happening within the flat earth community. And this is a crucial time within the community. Of course it is. I mean, let's put this in perspective. We have the flat earther with the largest platform, the largest channel, who basically did a globe flip. I mean, I'm not pulling punches with my words. I'll hesitate to, call people names and things. But as far as my thoughts, I'm not pulling punches. The number one YouTuber in the flat earth community is a glober. And I actually find it completely surprising that he even has one listener left. And it's just blowing my mind in so many ways. And I'm actually almost at a loss for words at this point with the enormity of the situation. Firstly, I find it very interesting that very few, if any, flat earthers would take the stance that Jeran is taking. So it begs the question, how is it that the one person from our community that's been chosen to participate in this so-called experiment is also potentially the one or only amongst a very few people who would actually take the position that he's taking? And I want everybody to think about that, because to me, that strains credibility and is certainly beyond coincidence. So it makes me wonder what other motivations may be afoot here. The second thing I wanted to say, the idea that the evidence that contraindicated the model that has been propped up by the primary flat earthers was brought to the table many years ago, as we know now, regarding the celestial data and how we visualize the sun from multiple locations simultaneously is not linear. Basically, the celestial data contraindicates the simplistic model that has been promoted by the larger creators. So again, it begs the question, why did they suppress this information? And why did they exclude from their inner circle those who were so intent on basically elucidating this information to people? And that's, to me, one of the biggest issues here. And that's why we got to this point. It's because of an adherence to another unevidenced model. So this should be a lesson to everybody regarding the way we all think, the way we reason, the way we make decisions, and how we conduct ourselves. Because once we start entertaining the realm of theory, you see where this led. And it seemed rather innocuous until now, because in the ultimate sense of irony, the model that they built for the flat earth is now poised to, in some people's minds, like Jeran, debunk the very flat earth that he has been promoting for almost a decade. It's almost incomprehensible, but it's a lesson. It's a lesson in how we view our world, how we view our position in this world, in this reality. And it really comes down to our understanding of the mystical, the spiritual. Because when one has a mindset for spiritual things, for heavenly things, for godly things, it's not hard to conceive of a world that is basically inscrutable. What is this compulsion by man to feel as though they have to explain everything, to feel as though they need to know things that they cannot possibly know? This is what I consider the downfall of man, the loss of God, the loss of morals, integrity, and principles. This really is what it comes down to. And this is really what it's always been about. So if one has a mindset where they place themselves in the position of God, whether they disregard the concept of a creator or they're just caught up in their own ego and arrogance, either way, it's an affront to the creator, and it's an abomination. And we're seeing this play out. So that to me was one of the primary things. Why were these prominent members who were so close guarding the information that contradicts their model? It again, what could be their motivation? I can conjecture. People are motivated by a lot of things. People have financial motivation. They have psychological motivation, emotional motivation. There's so many things. And that's going to be up to them to answer. But again, this is the issue with forming around a cult of personality and abandoning a sense of oneself in the group, in the collective. There's a little thing called a mob mentality or groupthink. And I think we're seeing this play out in our little community here, a groupthink mentality. And typically you see behaviors associated with this phenomenon. One of them is a loss of one's identity, and your identity becomes wrapped up in the group. And particular charismatic leaders will know how to manipulate and exploit people within the group. And this may be what we're seeing here. And I think there's a lot of destruction that goes along with it. This is not just a topic that's general or diffuse or obscure. This is a topic that is affecting people in so many ways and will affect people going forward. The more I'm thinking about this, I don't think they would be bringing Jeran down there if they didn't already know what that son does down there. We're talking about money brokers. We're talking about people who are in positions of power. And these people in these positions are typically associated in groups, brotherhoods, societies, things like this. Nachiketa has laid out compelling evidence that the group that Mr. Will Duffy is associated with has been looking to basically spring something on the flat earth community for at least 6 years. And this seems to be the newest iteration of it. So this idea that this is just some type of willy-nilly thing where two pastors are just looking to just see what the truth is and see to have an objective observation. No, I don't buy that. This seems like a plan, a conspiracy, a setup. And at this point, and I said this, Nachiketa, last time I was on your show, if I had to bet what Jeran's going to see down there, well, I already made my feelings on that known, because I don't think they'd be bringing him down there to basically destroy the globe. So I think they know what goes on with the sun down there. I think Will Duffy has 100% confidence of what's going to happen on this trip. So for somebody to say, well, let's wait and see, or I don't think there's any waiting to see. I think the outcome of this experiment is already done. So anybody clinging to Jeran at this point, you have to realize you will not have an excuse after this is done. Now, if you come correct to people, if you basically are humble, then of course you just got duped. But for these content creators that are going to continue to associate themselves with Jeran, you will be looked upon by me with a high degree of suspicion moving forward. I'm fairly confident of how this is going to play out. And Jeran will not be in the flat earth community very long. So you need to really evaluate who you are, what matters to you. You know, I mean, it says something. If you call yourself a flat earther, it means you have a particular understanding that the vast majority of people do not have. You have a spiritual understanding. You have a degree of intellect that eludes most people. So why at this point would you abandon something so special for some flimsy allegiance that you have with a content creator who you have very likely never met? So we need to remind ourselves of these things going forward. Yeah, so just to finish off, this thing is highly fishy, and I don't think Will Duffy is in this alone. I think he's being supported, certainly. I think Will Duffy knows exactly what's going to happen with that sun when everybody gets down there. And if you don't see it at this point, well, I don't know. Maybe you will in a bit, but I know where my mind stands. There seems to be a dog in the race, as you put it. You know, there seems to be some type of bias, particularly on Jeran's part. He would have likely years ago argued against his current position. That's the part that's fishy. When I was in my debate with Jeran recently, it felt just like when I talked to Globies. It was so strange for me to have that interaction that I had to completely evaluate my I would say my strategy regarding my discussion with him, because it was so strange. I've never had a discussion like that before in my life. And that's why I think there's something fishy here, because he seemed like he had an agenda. Now, it could be possible that, you know, his bias comes from some type of psychological or emotional situation that he's experiencing. You know, he may have things going on that we don't understand. My suspicion is Jeran, even though he has the largest flat earth channel, is somewhat, or maybe to a high degree, frustrated with his current standing, whether it be financial or just attention wise. And I think it may be highly likely that he's expressing himself in a way that is almost like a tantruming type of response, where he feels as though he's not getting the accolades, the respect, the attention that he deserves. And based on his inflated ego, he now is lashing out and basically giving a huge middle finger to all of us, and at the same time, his own supporters, people who are on this journey of truth, whatever it may be. Very likely your big content creator does not have a connection with you. You may feel as though you know them intimately, because it's a strange thing that we get with this technology. We can spend so much time with people and learn so much about them in a very intimate way, but they don't know about you. And I would caution people, who are you going to invest your emotional energy into? and it should not be taken lightly. And from the creator's side, from the content creator's side, that's something that shouldn't be taken lightly from their perspective. You know, if people are invested in you and they really care and they have an emotional investment in you as a creator, there's a responsibility that comes with that. And it doesn't mean you can't change your mind, and it doesn't mean you won't mess up. Everybody's human, but that needs to be held in a way that's almost sacrosanct. And I think it would be immoral to approach this any other way. And that's one of my big issues with Jeran, is because I don't think he gives a damn about really any of his listeners. And that's just me conjecturing. I don't know. Because if he did, then I don't think he'd be taking the particular stance that he's taking now, and in the way that he's doing it. He's not just changing his mind. He's literally insulting every single person who doesn't completely believe with him. He's calling everybody idiots, morons. He has this strange position that he's taken where it's almost like he's set to martyr himself in a weird way. And again, the psychology behind it, I could only imagine, but there's probably so many factors, beyond him being simply bought out. And I'm not taking that off the table.